In our last session we were looking at Boudica and the revolt that she led against the Roman Empire, and we finished with our last question, which we can see on the screen now. If you had to decide, whose side would you have been on? Would you have been Boudica and the Celts, or would you have been Paulinus and the Romans? And why did you make that choice? So pause the video, share with someone your ideas, see whether they agree or disagree, see whether you can persuade them to take your side, and then when you're ready, join me and we can look at today's session. In today's session, we're going to be finding out what life would have been like in Roman Britain. So this means we're going to be exploring some of the aspects of Roman life and how they were different to what life had been for the Celts or the early Britons. And we're going to be looking at different sources that are going to explain this to be able to ask some questions and then select and record that information. After Boudica's failed revolt, the Romans were careful to make sure that the Celts never had the opportunity to rise against them again. And as time went on, the Celts gradually adopted Roman customs and their ways of life, and they began to think of themselves as Romans too. So, let's pause for a moment and think about this question. What do you think daily life would have been like in Roman Britain? So what do you think life would have been like if we went back 2,000 years? Pause the video, have a little think, share your ideas, and come and join me when you're ready. Now we're going to take a look at some images that show us what daily life might have been like in Roman Britain. So I want you to be thinking about these as you look through them and think about what evidence do they give you to tell you what daily life in Roman Britain would have been like. The Romans built Britain's first towns. Streets were created in orderly straight lines, and in the middle was a square called the Forum. Here, news was announced, markets sold fruit, vegetables, and other goods, and business deals were made. Roman towns had two main roads, one running north and south, and the other east and west. Roman roads, just like their streets, were as straight as possible, so that they could travel to wherever they were going to quickly. They made slopes on either side of the roads, so that when it rained, the water could drain away and not make the road too muddy to travel. Did you know the Romans built around 9,000 kilometres of roads throughout Britain? They built aqueducts that were able to transport water around the towns and the cities. These were powered by gravity and were the only system of its kind until modern times. They built secure walls, bridges and dams, and they were also the first people to create central heating and indoor plumbing. The Romans even had flushing toilets, although they didn't have toilet paper, so they had to use a sponge on a stick instead. The Romans built public baths all over Britain. People went to wash and bathe there, but they were also popular places to spend leisure time and meet friends. They were very luxurious, and there were mirrors on the walls, the pools were lined with marble, and the floor was decorated with detailed mosaics. Some of the larger public baths had restaurants, games rooms, and even libraries in them. The Romans enjoyed being entertained, and most cities had a theatre. Performances were often part of religious festivals to honour the Roman gods. All the actors were men, who often played several different roles in each play. They had different coloured costumes and wigs for the different characters. And to help the audience understand the mood the actor was portraying in the play, the actors would hold up happy or sad faces. Amphitheatres were circular or oval buildings with a large space in the centre. This was where Romans would come and watch fights between gladiators and wild animals. Deaths were extremely common. Slaves and criminals were also often forced to fight, and if they were very good, they could win their freedom. The word gladiator comes from the Latin word for sword, gladius, so it literally means swordsman. Most Romans lived in small wooden houses with thatched roofs. However, very wealthy Romans lived in villas. These villas were large farms with big houses for the owners, and they would have lots of servants and farm workers to help run the villa. The villas were so well built that we are still finding remains of them all over Britain today. So now that we've learnt a little bit about what Britain was like under Roman rule, do you think you would have liked to have lived there during that time? Why? Pause the video, think about what your answer would be, and explain your reasoning behind it. And come and join me when you're ready to move on. So it's our turn to find out some more about life in Roman Britain. We're going to be thinking about some questions we could ask and the different sources we can use to be able to help answer them. Now, to help with this, on the website you'll find our core questions, and what these are asking you to do is to read some information cards to be able to discover what the answers are, and they're the things that maybe we've looked at already. So when you read these questions, think carefully about whereabouts we might be able to identify the answers of the information that might help us to understand. Because then we can use these information texts to try and help discover them. Don't forget you can use other sources as well, should you choose. And maybe once you've answered all the questions I provided, there could be some other questions that you'd love to find out about what life in Roman Britain was like. So you can be as creative and thought-provoking as you want, and then be thinking about those different sources. We've got the information that's already been provided on the video. We've got those information cards that can be found on the website. Or of course, you've got non-fiction books you can turn to, and also website sources. So good luck with this, and I look forward to you joining me on the next session where we're going to begin with this question. What is the most fascinating fact that you have learnt today about life in Roman Britain? So now you're ready, off you go, and be thinking about this question and ready to return for our next session. Good luck. I look forward to seeing your answers.